How's it working? Hi, I think we're going live. So I haven't done one of these for a very long time, and I've got a slightly cobbled together setup here, but just wanted to pop on quickly and say a couple of things. So first, we had quite a few new subscribers to my fledgling channel, so thank you very much. We're sort of edging up towards 1,000, 670 something. It'd be really lovely to get up to 1,000. Just feels like a nice round number. And I thought I would just expand a little on one of the more popular posts that I've put up there, really one of the short videos where I called, I think it all started here. So really, yeah, it really is where it all started with Murder on the Orient Express. So I was a keen reader as a child, so I devoured, lots of children's books at quite an early age, and I sort of was a frequent visitor at the local library, and on the way home I would have my head already in the book, and it's a wonder I wasn't run over at some point because I was already reading the book on the way home. But it wasn't long before the children's section, which was upstairs in the old building, was kind of exhausted. And in those days, I guess kids didn't have so many things. We had a very small collection of books. Maybe you got a book at Christmas or a book token, for your birthday or something like that. So I didn't have this huge collection of things. You were reliant on things being given to you, or perhaps occasionally as a treat you might have something, or you might pick up a second-hand one. And I'm afraid I can't remember who gave me this lovely old copy of Murder on the Orient Express, and it was a great place to start because what a fantastic jumping off point. So I kind of went straight from children's books to adults books because there wasn't really YA fiction much in those days. I mean, I guess there was some, there must have been, but some of the very childish adventure stories that I would have begun with, weren't really appropriate quite quickly for me as I'd moved on as a reader. So this is really the one that the pages, as I was showing in my other video, are very yellowing. I think it's the acid in or it reacts with the acid in the paper. I think the fingerprints over time. And I wish I could remember who'd given it to me. I love seeing inscriptions in front of books, and there's nothing in this one. But it was published by Fontana, Fontana, I don't know if they exist anymore. Some I doubt it. I love the kind of little typeface on here, and the nice, quite bold illustration, which actually looks quite modern. And just in case you haven't read it or seen any of the film versions or any TV series or anything, I won't do any spoilers. But what a cracking twist that one has, and there's no way you can get to it in advance. So then I moved on. Also at Fontana, we had similarly here this slightly more cluttered cover for Death on the Nile. We've got They Do It With Mirrors, and this was Pan. So again, a big feature, Pan books. They did all kinds of interesting things for young minds to devour. I wish I had more. There are some books, I tried to keep books that I've read, but there are obviously some fall by the wayside. Another Pan one, Poirot Investigates. Now I didn't mind Miss Marple, but I was quite quickly latched onto Poirot. I liked him. I guess I was quite a sort of systematic sort of thinking person even then, and I liked his kind of logical approach. I was quite into science and things as a kid. Got The Mysterious Affair at Styles. Now, I don't want to sort of speak out of turn. I can't remember whether that was the first one or not. Maybe it was the first Hercule Poirot. I'm sure others could correct me. I seem to be alone here at the moment. Another Pan one, Murder is Easy. This one very battered. Don't like that cover particularly. It's not great, is it? I've got some of those old medicine bottles on my shelf, actually. Like some of them which I dug up in the surrounding countryside. And this much more modern one, which is really not keen on that typeface. It's dated quite badly, also by Fontana. But all good stuff. And then this, I think I may have bought this later. So if you've ever collected any of the old penguins, I've got a little collection up there. If had green on there were the crime ones. So I'm probably quite pleased to find that. 2 shillings and 6pence. That was probably quite a bit of money at the time, and slightly falling apart, I'm afraid. But they haven't done badly considering they've been around, a lot of them, and travelled with me. There are 1 or 2 others back on my bookshelf, but they're the main ones. They're the good old paperback collection that I really got into and enjoyed. And Agatha Christie really opened my eyes. And it was a long time before I tried to write a mystery, probably because I loved them so much. And, when you're keen on something, you kind of feel that your own work might pale by imitation, you daren't try it. So, although I wanted to write from an early age, it was a very long time before I began writing seriously and began doing novel-length works with things like my sort of time travel genre bending mashup of the Darkening Stone trilogy, which of course are all still available. I wish more people knew about those. I don't think they're bad books. Um, Quite different, quite interesting, lots in there to enjoy. And that's kind of a book that could cross over from a YA audience into an adult audience. But I finally bit the bullet. I seem to remember it was actually somebody following me on Facebook, somebody who'd read my Darkening Stone books, and I'd said something on an offhand comment like, I'd love to write a mystery, I'd love to write crime. Because I'm also a big fan of the Rebus books. I'm a big fan of the Sherlock Holmes stories, lots of that stuff. I even used to read the Father Brown mysteries, I think, when I was a teenager. A bit gentler, but still fun. G.K. Chesterton is a very humorous writer. So they're interesting. They've been televised more than once, of course. And it's all good stuff. And somebody, and I wish I could remember her name because it was years and years and years ago, they said, go on, you could do it, real fish out of water stuff. And that kind of sparked something because Dan Corrigan, my amateur sleuth, is, of course, very much a fish out of water. A guy who loves the fast-paced life of working in high-tech corporations in the city with a capital C, so living in London and zapping about, going to trendy bars and stuff, finds himself escaping to a very small, very rural village, which doesn't even have decent broadband, and he's in this little cottage that doesn't even have any internet at all, and only got three or four standard TV channels. So he's very much fish out of water, and what happens there, you'll have to go and read A Study in Stone if you want to find out whether he stays or not. And there are 7 books in that series now. They get longer as they go along. So obviously they're not the same. I mean, much as Christie is great, you'll see that when they televise them, they often update them. I don't particularly like that. I like the classic. I like to get the period feel because that's how they were written, and I think that's what the author intended. So when they put sort of modern sensibilities in there, I think it tends to spoil them. People are still buying them, people are still reading them, and period mysteries are really, really popular. And I don't tend to read the others in that. I tend to read more contemporary crime stuff. But I do read a bit of regional crime and a bit of sort of cozy crime. I read it fairly widely. I also read literary stuff. I read all kinds of things. So, which is a long-winded way of saying I didn't want to particularly copy anybody. I wanted to do my own thing in my own voice. So I tried to put all my knowledge in a way of Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie and so on out of my mind. I wasn't trying to imitate them. In a sort of homage to Holmes, I think probably mistakenly called it A Study in Stone as a reference to A Study in Scarlet, and Valley of Lies is a reference to Valley of Fear. And I stopped doing that. It's one of those things that seemed a good idea at the time, and then people started reading them, and they were being sold, and people were buying them and enjoying them, and so on. So it's too late to change it now. But that was what the story behind that was, a little homage. But I wasn't trying to copy that style, although you could argue that Dan Corrigan is a bit irascible and a bit unpredictable because he's a very clever guy. So again, perhaps an homage to Holmes, but he certainly isn't. And I have no pretensions of that. I don't expect my work to live up to the greats that have stood the test of time for decades and decades and decades. But who knows? Maybe one day I can laugh. But I hope people enjoy them and get some entertainment. Yeah, they're a bit escapist. They're kind of how we want a quiet village to be, rather than what it is. I live in a tiny village in Devon, on the edge of Dartmoor. It's a smaller village than a fictional village of Ambervale, where Dan lives. There are only 60 houses in my village, so not much in the way of crime, as you can imagine. Pretty safe. You could go out and leave your door unlocked, I suspect, and nobody would be, nothing bad would happen. So I've gone on longer than I meant to, which is kind of, I'm a bit of a talker, I'm afraid. So if you've subscribed recently, thank you so much. if you've been listening to the podcast and watching the videos of me doing the readings, I perhaps rather optimistically set out doing 4 readings a week, and I did enjoy it, and I was trying to improve the sound. I've been learning that as I go, so some of the sound quality of the podcast versions may be better, or you may not like it so much. Perhaps I'll do the others live like this. We'll see if this works. That'd be quite fun, um, just to do it that way. But they were originally posted on Substack and then transferred to YouTube, which is another whole different way of doing it. But they were recorded as live. So we'll see. I would like to get back to doing them. At the moment, not a huge amount of people watching or listening. So it's hard to justify the amount of time it takes, but I don't want to let anybody down. So I will try to get back into doing at least some of them, and we'll see how it goes. Obviously, there are a lot of things to do because I'm a one-man band. I write, I publish, I do the various marketing things, social media, all that stuff. So anyway, that's me. Happy Sunday, happy reading. Thanks very much if you've been subscribing. If you're finding this for the first time, there's a subscribe button somewhere on YouTube, isn't there? That's what people always say. Liking, sharing, subscribing is great. It just helps people to find it, and it helps you to keep track of it. And there's probably one of those bell things, so you can do like a little notification thing. Hope it sounds all okay. This is new to me. They've changed it since I last did a live stream. They've changed it a lot. And we also just have rural broadband here, like Dan Corrigan. So it's not the fastest in the world. No fibre optic cables here. Good old-fashioned copper wire for several miles till it gets to the nearest fibre cabinet, which is some miles away down the valley. So take care, look after yourselves and each other, and bye for now.